Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals again about the fact that the supplement industry is mostly a scam industry. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd appreciate it so much. Thank you. And I'm someone who has a very, very, very long history of combating this stuff, all the way up to, being sued previously over calling out bad research that later I was vindicated on, way years after the trial, of course. But, keep in mind, I've always been kind of a champion against scam supplements. And I'm not saying there aren't a few that work. I'm not saying there aren't a few that are beneficial for health. But by and large, probably 95 to 99% of supplements out there are pretty much useless in terms of any physiological benefit or a net positive. So again, I'm not saying there are not exceptions, but we don't base the rule on the exception. In other words, we could all say, yeah, protein powders are useful. Creatine seems to have some uses. People who are deficient in B12, it's beneficial. People who don't get enough sunlight, vitamin D3 is useful, right? We don't take those minor exceptions and then say, aha, so supplements are useful. Well, no, by and large, they're not. The overwhelming majority are absolutely not. And it's been a long-term scam industry, and it still continues to be. And when I say the supplement industry, there are people who chime in on my channels and stuff think I'm talking purely for bodybuilding purposes. No, I'm talking for all purposes. And I think we don't see that because, again, like on my Facebook, for example, it's a little more health-focused people following, more Gen Pot people, whereas on my YouTube, it's more lifter and fitness people following. So there tends to be a slight, when I make these statements, people are not always understanding. There's different audiences chiming in on these videos and seeing them. And the fitness and health world is a pretty big area. It's not all, hey, let's get jacked and swole, bros. But we need to address both of those. But I think people need to be aware the one of the bigger scams too, the other half of the supplement industry, is the whole health and wellness side. And it is just as big of a scam as the, hey, we're going to put a bunch of jacked bodybuilders on the label and have them claim they use this product to get there while using tons of drugs. Okay? You need to understand there's multiple facets to the supplement industry scam. And there are companies that specialize a little bit in both. But by and large, I would say that the healthosphere is probably a larger market than the, hey, let's cater to young guys who want to get jacked. Okay? Just be aware, it's probably a larger market. And the same rules apply. But I think what people need to grasp on the lifting end, look, other than maybe creatine, supplements have not been consistently shown to help you gain muscle. They definitely don't necessarily help you gain fat over just normal foods. And that's part of the problem, is that they work off of placebo. The supplement industry has a long habit of spiking drugs in their stuff. And that's the frustrating thing. You say that to people and it's like, look, if you took this product and you're claiming natty, sorry, dude, you did a cycle. And I'd say a perfect example, anyone who took BioGrow when it came out, it was very clear. It was very clear they were spiking the first batches with an oral anabolic. Even the independent researchers, when they sent them the sealed thing, I mentioned that when I looked at the data. The researchers said, we can't explain biologically some of the side effects our test subjects are getting from the containers of BioGrow you sent us, because they didn't do a spectrum analysis of it. The company just simply hired them to do independent testing. Like, yeah, we saw gains in muscle and strength here. It was pretty robust. But we keep having these side effects, and you guys see where we're about to go. The side effects sounded exactly like oral anabolics. And I said at the time, I know they were spiking it with an anabolic. So I suspected it was Superdrol. Okay. But that's a perfect example. They will spike products with steroids or meth analogs or whatever to get a strong stimulant effect or an anabolic effect, and then they'll pull it out. And this has happened numerous times. Once the product gets a good reputation, everyone's like, man, I made gains on it. But, you basically took a PED. And for people to say, well, hey, great. Well, no, you overpaid for it. You took it without knowing what it was. You didn't have any way to deal with any side effects you have because you weren't aware you were taking it, and you paid more than it was actually worth. So no, you didn't even really get a benefit. You know, that tub of BioGrow costs way more than had you just gone and bought the drug. But I digress. Back over to the point. It's still all scams, and they always have bodybuilders. Oh, this is what I use. This is what I use. And now it's influencers. It was all always professional bodybuilders on all the models, fitness models, all on lots of drugs, and then claiming the product worked. Okay. On the other end of the scam, the same thing with the health stuff. Right? We see it all the time. Oh, this helped me with whatever my cancer. This is where it gets insidious. You have a lot of these loggers and low-level supplement resellers. You see it all over social media. We're not even talking fit people. They're obviously not even lifters, half the time. They may not even exercise. They're promoting, this helped me with my irritable bowel syndrome, my gallbladder cancer, my menopause, right? Or whatever it happens to be. And the testimonials, and they'll sell stuff, and then they market themselves in as wellness coaches, pimping supplements. And maybe some of them got a placebo effect, some of them didn't, but by and large, again, the same thing. They will make claims, and people are trying to sell stuff that can't do what it's claiming to do. Okay? And what people also have to remember, they're never going to replicate a drug. Again, the laws do not allow this to happen. So if they actually do start having these effects, they get pulled off the market, and for good reason, because you can't have supplements replicate drug-like effects when you can't control the exact dose and effect in a controlled environment. In other words, it's going to create problems. The example I was using, it would be true for anything, whether you're fighting any medical condition. This is why the certain type of red yeast is illegal to sell in the U.S. It's because it replicated statin-like effects. Well, people who need a statin need to be on a statin. And because it was an herbal, you can't control the dose. So in other words, these are people who need a carefully calibrated dose of a medication. So if you have a herb that is not consistent in its ability to give the exact same milligram dose and effect every single day, this is not good, right? You're going to have potential health complications and even possibly endanger your life by using it instead of the drug that is the exact amount. And it's not even a case of, oh, it's just so more. Statins are insanely cheap today. There is no one's making billions off of it, right? They're not even expensive anymore, right? So again, this is what we're talking about. The whole industry is by and large a scam, and if it really does work, it's going to be made illegal very, very quickly. So this is, again, how again, looking at it, these are all scams, and look at the tactics they use.